So what's up, people? If you're new to my channel, then please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. So for today, I did stage 6 of the Tour de Zwift. I did the Coastal Crusher in Watopia route. That's the middle route. It was 26.8 miles. So right off the bat, I got to tell you guys, this was a brutally tough race. First, the distance was a little bit out of my normal comfort zone. Usually I try to stay within 20 miles, especially with being a heavier rider, a bigger rider, and one that kind of relies on his power output. So this was definitely out of my wheelhouse and it showed. So right out the gate, we come out typically like a whole bunch of watts. The goal of coming out fast is just to establish yourself with the front wheel and kind of break down the congestion. So I'm out front, but to be honest with you, it doesn't really last for long. You can see I'm kind of moving to the side, kind of moving, trying to prevent people from drafting me. One of the things I did purchase was the Google Play controllers, and I wanted to see how they work. So so this race was unique in the fact that when I first looked at it, it didn't have a whole lot of elevation, and so I expected it to be fairly straightforward. It was everything but that, to be honest with you. This was a brutal race. The elevation it had was, although it wasn't a lot of elevation, it was consistent, and that just wore you out over time. Coupled that with the fact that this front group was just hammering away at everybody the entire race. There were multiple attacks, and even if they weren't attacking, just the pace that you had to sustain just not to get dropped was ridiculous. Keep in mind, I did get dropped a couple times and definitely had to work my way back up. This race was probably more mental. Well, I shouldn't say that. This race was, to be honest with you, it was both mental and physical because my legs started cramping up. We got deeper into the race just because, for the most part, the front group just hammering away. They were trying to kill the rest of the riders, and they forgot to tell them that I was actually one of the rest of the riders. So they were trying to kill me also. So here you can see two riders try to break away from the pack. This was consistent over the course of the race because there were multiple attacks, and these attacks were ferocious and they were for an extended period of time. Over the course of the race, it definitely began to have its effect on me. I was exhausted. As you can see, I'm glistening all over. Sweat is just pouring off of me. The fan that I had didn't do anything. To be honest with you, I was just pouring sweat. This was a very brutal ride. Even the downhills didn't do anything because even on the downhills, the front pack attacked on the downhills, which is usually an advantage for me. Being a heavier rider, I usually do pretty well and is able to gain ground or relax a little bit on the downhill. Not today. This was a brutal ride. So it was interesting. So now I'm dropped officially. I'm out there by myself. This is actually very difficult. I actually realize when people say it's much easier to ride in block in a group because it cuts down the work. Initially, I never noticed it, but I definitely did notice it today. I was dropped multiple times over the course of this race. I always managed to latch myself back on, fortunately. I think it was more of a product of I just refused to be dropped. I was like, I can't get dropped. I've been pretty successful for the past couple races. I've been able to make top 10 for every race in this series, and my goal was to finish this series in top 10. So I was almost willing to do the proverbial kill myself in order to latch onto this pack. But the minute I would get close, there they would just take off again. And it was almost for a little bit of this race, it was discouraging just because they would. I'm going 500 watts and I still wouldn't be able to catch them. They were just humping. But I figured it was just a matter of time before they would get tired. If I'm tired, the one thing I always say to myself was with racing, if I'm tired, everybody else has to be tired. So that's kind of what I focus on. So here you can see I'm close to latching on to the front wheel. Finally, I'm working myself to the front wheel, but guess what happens? Nope, about to get dropped again. They take off. Fortunately, well, there was really no fortunately. I get dropped again and I have to just work my way back up. So it was kind of lonely riding out there by myself. I kind of felt like that middle kid, the one who's the older sister. The older siblings are too old and the younger ones are way too young. So I'm just kind of out there just by myself. Here I'm just trying to get some sort of recovery in order to make this final push. I know I'm running out of miles at this point. So I got to do something. It was basically just focus and determination to keep pushing. And I figure at some point in time, this front group would have to relent and had to give up. They couldn't be hammering at this number of watts the entire race. It was just unfathomable at this point. So as you guys can see right about now, I actually get the mercy clap, right? That's the thumbs up with like, good try, dude. That I'm a track coach and in track, we actually call that the mercy clap. So yeah, I actually got the mercy clap. Fortunately, for me, the race wasn't over. So I was able to hopefully somewhat redeem myself over the course of the race. So finally, I latched myself back onto the group. Thank God. And we actually start working together for the remaining miles in order to make it a little bit easier. I figured it would just be a matter of time that at least some of the riders in the front will have to relent and come back. So it was good to see that finally I was able to catch on. But as you can see, there was another attack and another group of people just took off. Another group of riders took off. So right about now, another rider is starting to feel the strain, and he sends a message that says, "Hey, we need to blob up and work together, or we're going to get caught." So I figure everybody at this point was probably feeling the strain and probably was on the verge of collapse. So We do start actually working together, which makes the rest of the ride a little bit more manageable. This is when I realized the value of a group. Is whatever Swift's calculation is, riding out there by yourself is much, much harder than riding in a group. And I definitely felt it this race. So now I'm back with the group, more settled into the race. I think the other riders they've hammered the rest of the pack to death. So now I think everybody has just kind of conceded the fact that this front group, that this front wheel, we're just basically going to race to the end. And it's going to be a dogfight at the end. So conserve as much energy as you can because we got a huge fight at the end. So that's kind of the vibe that went on. As you can see, my watch definitely dropped this part of the race. So I think everybody was just trying to conserve as much energy. You've already hammered the pack, and anybody who's left, you're not going to be able to hammer them into submission. So it is what it is. Let's just ride as a group and get to the finish line. So here some riders try to drop what the remaining of the first or what's left of the front pack. We got a group of riders that tried to drop us. It's not really anybody in this front group now. They're definitely able to maintain the wattage. Everybody's probably tired at this point. So trying to just randomly drop somebody or trying to just randomly do an attack isn't going to be as effective as it probably would have been in the first part of the race, just because everybody's exhausted and you run the risk of if you do an attack and it doesn't work, you kind of expose yourself. So here we have just some small attacks periodically. Nothing too vicious. I think at this point, there might be a rider that has basically blew out the rest of the pack. This rider beats the front pack. He is the number one person, beat everybody else by like 40 seconds. So he just gets on this horse and he just goes. And I think at this point, everybody just concedes the fact that we're not going to catch him. And so it's definitely just a race for second at this point. At this point, I'm exhausted. It's getting close to the end, but I figure if I'm exhausted, somebody else, everybody else is exhausted too. This is the final stretch. Within less than a mile of the race, people are actually starting to build. Now you can see I'm definitely starting to be more responsive to what's happening. I somebody cuts on their feather. The power ups are starting to take off. I'm starting to build to try to close somebody out, to try to close the race out. At this point, everybody's exhausted and everybody's humping. I end up getting up to 900 plus watts. My legs are shot at this point. Just trying to run somebody down really wasn't going to happen. So I just concede the fact that, hey, you know what? At least I made my top 10. At least I made what I wanted to make and accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I was shot. That's just the reality of it. I was shot. Everybody was shot, but it was definitely a good series. I can definitely feel my fitness improving. I can see the changes in my body. So I accomplished what I wanted to do for this race. So that's it. And I see you guys at the finish line. Peace.